Hi, I'm Tim Ard. Welcome to Along the ForestApps Road. I just finished replacing the drive sprocket on my Steel 362 M-tronic, and so I got that replaced, putting her back together. Hang around, we'll discuss how to replace that on your saw should it be worn. After a week of training this week, we've got some cleanup to do on the saws, and got a lot of dead cherry trees where we were. It's got a lot of buildup, and also got to thinking about, I noticed last time my drive sprocket was getting just a little bit worn here, so it's about time to take a look at that, see what we can do with it. The drive sprocket here is the gear that connects your centrifugal clutch to the chain to turn. And this sprocket comes in a couple different variations. The first one is a floating rim. Now this rim comes in a couple different configurations. You have to have the proper pitch, and also the size is in the part number here, 3/8-7, so this is a 7-tooth sprocket. You can also get a sprocket to fit this chainsaw in an 8-tooth, which would turn a little faster. But this is an Oregon Power Mate, and very similar to most all saws that have the floating rim. One thing that is unique on this one is that it has a witness mark. That little witness mark is about 28 thousandths of an inch, about the thickness of your thumbnail. And what that's for is, when that wear mark is gone, you know it's time to think about replacing that sprocket. And we don't always consider that you can't harden this. This is sintered metal. You can't harden it all the way to the core, or it's going to be brittle. So more or less, the outer surface is hardened and machined, and then the inner parts are still kind of flexible. So once it gets down through about that 28 thousandths, it can rapidly wear. And the same thing if you have a star or a gear type sprocket on it. Some of the consumer saws and some professional saws still have the original type of design, which was a star type sprocket. Those too, when you get down through that hardened surface, it starts to get into soft metal, and it'll start to wear very, very quickly. I had one in a class not too long ago where the participant there had put a new chain on it but didn't replace the sprocket, and the groove was in the middle of that star sprocket, and so when they put a new chain on there, it kind of rode up to the side of it. It adjusted it out properly, but as soon as he started it and put it in the wood, the chain jumped off the bar rail because the chain fell down into the wore groove on the star sprocket, and more or less the chain jumped off the rail under pressure. But these are also nice to have because if the chain does derail, it doesn't chew up the drive links quite so badly. Links here, they go down into the bar rail, are actually what's driven by that sprocket. So when you start to look at that, if this jumps off, these things beat up that sprocket pretty well. Well, this, or the sprocket beats up the drive links pretty well. So that's an important thing about this. Kind of cuts down some of that action. So here I have an E-clip that has to be removed. So I'm going to see if I can use my bar wrench. You have to be kind of careful with these things because they'll go flying off there pretty good. But you just take and put that off. There is a flat side and a round side to these E-clips, so make sure when you put it back on you have the flat surface facing out so it locks onto the crankshaft. If you put it the other way, if you do get a little dirt buildup or pressure off of it, that'll cause that E-clip to spread itself out and more or less come off the end of the shaft. Then there's a little washer, keep the bearing clean, and then the sprocket comes off. And if you can see on this one, I've got a good bit of wear down in there, and that starts to really start vibrations, and once I get down through that little bit of surface, it gets into softer material. So you want to be very, very cautious of that. You notice a lot of similarities here. This is a steel 7/2 3/8, and the one I'm going to put on back is Oregon. It will match it, and the basic design, because Oregon has produced sprockets for steel in the past. Steel does, I think, produce some of their own now, but Oregon has produced them for years and years and years. So just thinking about if you had an Oregon, it will fit on your steel, or vice versa. But the biggest thing, once you get that wear, you want to make sure that you replace that sprocket. Now, this sprocket also has a channel, so did the steel one. That channel is to help move the dirt from that drive link in and out, so the debris doesn't pack in there. It comes out to the center and then comes out off of the hub shaft. And usually I put the numbers pointing out, and so that kind of gives you a quick reference to what's taking place. And then you've got the washer that goes back on, and then the clip with the flat side out. And one little trick to get that off is to use the end of your scrunch to put it back on. You can basically take your scrunch over that and then pull, and that'll push it back on. That way it kind of captures that clip in your scrunch, so if you kind of miss it the first time, it doesn't go flying out into the woods or the grass somewhere or off your workbench. So very important with that little trick there. Well, thanks for watching this edition of Along the ForestApps Road. Hope you picked up something you might be able to use, and keep your saw in top running shape. Also be able to make sure that you can do your job safely and efficiently. So hopefully this Tim's Tips has helped you a bit, and we'll see you hopefully along the ForestApps Road. Thanks for dropping by. Good sawing.